No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't think you're this super high rep stuff with, lighter loads, relatively speaking, it has its place. But if that's all you're running with, it could, I guess it depends on the body type and genetics and all that stuff. But I think it would be a little bit tougher to hold on to muscle for the most part. I don't know. Maybe you could probably answer that one better than me, because I'm not there yet. So I'm just going off of what I've been hearing from some of the other champs speak.
Yeah, and I've never been a high rep guy. To me, it never made sense. It was basically like doing a lot of cardio. It's when I work with the kids I work with, and they'll say, "Hey, I did like 300 push-ups in my room," and I tell them that's great, but once you get to that point, you're really not going to be building any muscle anymore.
Right.
And I said, so I'd give them ideas. If they had a roommate, I'd say, have your roommate sit on your back or put his feet on your back, or try to get your feet up on the sink or up on the wall. I said, because now you're going to be adding more resistance. And they go, okay. And I actually wrote up, it was called the cell workout, a different workout. Like when there's times when I do get because we teach year round, obviously, because the kids are always there, but we'll get our breaks and we'll be gone for like Christmas vacation or summer break. And so I started getting them these workouts to do in their rooms, because they would miss doing my class. And that was always a nice thing, is I work them hard. A lot of kids hate it, but then they see the transformations. Like I just had a kid, and we've been having kids with a little longer stays because different crimes, whatever.
Yeah.
But in my mindset, I always try to turn to a positive. So my mindset is, well, hey, we used to have kids average 7 to 10 days. I can't do a lot in 7 to 10 days. I can work them out a little bit, whatever. Now I got these kids for 7 to 10 months. We've had kids up to 2 years. So I saw transformations in some of these kids, and the kids saw it in themselves. And that was it was a huge reward for me to know what I was doing was really helping them. And then to run into them later and they're like, man, I'm still working out. Or they come to the gym I'm at now and they go, hey, you remember me? And I'll usually my next question is I'll say, how old are you? And they'll go, I'm 35. And I'm like, whoa, that was a while ago. But it's cool that they still are trying to, keep healthy in their life and do that. And hopefully I did have that influence on them. But no, so going back, I've never been a big believer in the tons and tons of reps, only other than if I'm doing a shock week, I might do it just to shock the muscle. But for progressive training and sustainable training over time, to me it doesn't have a point.
It's interesting because I there's obviously pros and cons to both ends of the extreme. You got the overuse, so many reps, and then you got if you go too heavy, well, then you can also hurt yourself, obviously. But there's obviously exceptions. I'm sure there's champion bodybuilders, they swear by it, they preach it, and it really works really well for them. But from what I've seen on an average, some of the most impressive natural bodybuilders are some of the strongest as well, right? And you see a guy who, he's doing 40 kilogram, now I'm in Europe, so I'm thinking kilos. But he's never going above like a certain amount of load, let's just say, as an example. And he's always there forever, the same amount of reps, the same amount of load. Is that guy really going to be growing long term? I don't know. The same amount of sets, like everything is just the same. It's like probably not, right? So
no, it's funny. I have that. So with my friend Andre, the gym owner, we've had that conversation because he was a pretty strong bodybuilder, but he still laughs at like some of the lifts I can do, at my age. And he goes, "You're crazy." And because what's funny is he stopped competing in his 40s, regretted it. He tried to do a comeback later, and did like 1 or 2 shows over 50, and now I think he's like 63 now. Still looks great, great shape. But we've had this discussion many times that I think that it's true that some of the best bodybuilders are some of the strongest ones that, you built, or you get the guys that got, we talked gymnasts, or the ones that got into powerlifting first,
right.
And going back to, like I was saying earlier, when I had my coach, he was big on Olympic lifts because that was the big thing back in the day was the Olympics, so you follow the Olympics, you'd follow the clean and jerk, the deadlift, and those, of course, squat and the bench press. And that's pretty much all we did. But he challenged us on those things. Like I did a 245 clean and jerk. I got the gold medal for it. We did a little powerlifting thing when I was 16. And to me, it wasn't a big deal. But now looking back on that kind of weight I was throwing up at 16 is crazy, you know. But it was, I tell people, it was because you throw 100-pound hay bales around all day long, eventually it's going to do something. And that's what it did. So
Oh, you have so many years ahead of you that you can just continue to do this and enjoy the competitive aspect of it, if that's the direction you're going with it. But even just the progress too. Like, do you think that you were, there were some progressions happening into your 30s, into your 40s, where your physique did look like it was more muscular?